Welcome to Screen Chat After Dark. I'm Neale Bastions, and this is the show where I usually sit around with friends and talk about film and television and pop culture. We're doing this on a Saturday night, and we haven't even been drinking, and already shit's going goofy. So this might be a sign of things to come. With me this week, Alex Watkinson in chair number 2. Say hey.
Hey.
Warren Nightingale, as always, in chair number 1. That seat is getting grooved to your ass.
That's it. I am very comfortable. But thank God Alex is here to class you this place up.
No shit, eh? The last few times it has been you and me, and things have just gone right down the shitter.
I think my wife just laughed when she heard that comment. So
you got her hidden in your pocket, or you just live stream this to her?
I just live stream it straight to her so she can hear that I am actually classy outside of the house.
Oh, I thought you were about to say that she can hear that you're hanging out with guys and that you're not out with like the work girls. I won't mention your place of work on air, but you know. All right. Anyways, this week we are talking all about Keanu Reeves, fantastic actor, awesome. Huge. You know, I was just as we got ready for this thinking about all the different kinds of roles he's done. Very diverse, played all kinds of stuff, and I think you suggested this one, Alex. Threw that out there, saying we should do a Keanu Reeves retrospective, so to speak.
Yeah, with John Wick 3 coming out right away, and Bill and Ted's being talked about. I mean, and he's always in the news for just being such a awesome, down-earth dude. It was like, how do we not talk about this guy? At least one episode.
Yeah. Warren?
You know,
opening thoughts?
Opening thoughts?
Throw it out there. It's all off the rails tonight.
Yeah. Well, when I think of Keanu Reeves, I think of the fact that here's a guy who's, you know, my connection to him is, of course, he's Canadian. We're Canadian.
Is he?
He is.
Is he?
He is.
How do you? Because I read today he's not.
He is officially Canadian.
Well, I know he's got a Canadian passport and citizenship.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know. Because he was born in Beirut.
Yeah.
His father was from Hawaii. His mother was English
Essex.
or something.
She's from Essex.
Then they lived in the States, and then eventually he moved to Canada, apparently.
And lived in Toronto and
so.
stuff like that, yeah. And then he went back down to be an actor.
Yeah.
But, you know, being
a man of the world.
Being, sure. But like, you know,
we do think of him as Canadian. We think of him as one of ours.
We take full ownership.
Oh, for sure. And stereotypically, as you know, a Canadian, he is somebody who is extremely grounded, polite, all those things. You never hear about him using a celebrity for anything, and he's just he's not really what you would say stereotypically a Hollywood movie or actor or star of anything of that nature.
Does not have star head.
No.
He's known for even just interacting with normal Joes.
Yeah, exactly.
Not too long, a few years ago, he was here in Winnipeg shooting something, and apparently just went to the town theater town cinemas to watch a movie, and just took pictures with the popcorn guy and interacted with people and just sat in the theater like normal. And for anybody that doesn't know, the town cinema is not exactly Winnipeg's finest establishment. It is a little sketchy, but it apparently didn't bother him.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, right? Like, you think about it, how many people out there say, I'm going to be an actor or an actress, director, and they make their way to Hollywood. So he makes it there, and then when he gets there, how many people say, I'm not going to let Hollywood change me. I'm going to be who I am, and it's never going to change me. And then, you know, first contract, first day in the show, they're a changed person. Mm-hmm. This guy's 54 years old.
55, 54, yeah.
And he hasn't changed. He hasn't let Hollywood change him. He's guarded. He watches what he says, and he I read an interesting article in GQ recently, and, you know, it's almost like that scene from The Matrix where he's got a bunch of green going in front of him, and he knows exactly how this article is going to read out while the words are coming out of his mouth. He's very, very protected that way, and minds what he says, but he's never bought into the BS that is Hollywood. He's kept it Keanu the whole way.
And there's something that's he has gratitude, I think. You know, he's always very gracious. Like, not only as an actor, I would say, with the other actors that he works with. Like, he is somebody who's very giving. He never...
With interviewers, with fans.
With crew.
Everybody.
With stuntmen.
I can personally attest to this, and I did not know how I was going to work this in here tonight. I did not think it was going to be this early. You both know this story. But since this is my show, I'm going to tell the stories if nobody's ever heard it. Because I have personal first-hand experience. I have met Keanu Reeves.
Oh, you did? Okay, I must have tuned you out.
I was there.
Alex, you were in the building. We were at, this would be like late 90s. We were at Earl's Restaurant and Bar.
He was here for
on
Hamlet.
Main Street.
It was
He's
95.
in town playing Hamlet. And I had more than a couple adult beverages.
Okay.
I was feeling good.
About a bottle's worth.
Went to the of Jack Daniels. Went to the washroom. Whatever. Now I'm washing my hands. I'm at the sink washing my hands, and I look up in the mirror, and I look to my right, and there washing his hands is Keanu Reeves. And I said, "Dude, you're Keanu Reeves." And he looked back at me very calmly, and he said, "Yeah, I am." And then I replied to him, "That's fucking crazy." To which he replied, "Yeah." And then I walked out. Went back out to the table, sat down, and probably told Alex that exact exchange. And he was super cool.
I can't get past the fact you actually opened with dude. Like,
I'm fairly certain I did. And who knows? This story could have changed in my mind over time that I opened with dude. And I did not do it intentionally. It was not like a Bill and Ted thing, but I was just like, "You're Keanu Reeves."
You could probably hear the Keanu sigh
Probably.
around the world when he opened with dude.
I don't know.
yeah. And so, that was 95, right?
Yeah.
He was in town, MTC, which is the Manitoba Theatre Center, brought him as a headliner for Hamlet. And in those days, I was doing quite a bit of theater, and I remember people thinking, "Oh, there's just..."
Oh, you're going to trump me? You were on stage with him?
Yeah. So I did a walk-on piece. I played Rosencrantz.
So we did a scene. I just never brought it up before.
No, but I just remember this that feeling. There's a couple thoughts there, because one, I remember in the theater crowd, people were like, "Oh, geez, here's a big movie star. Like, why is he coming on stage and he's going to be Hamlet? How can he play Hamlet?" But what I thought was really kind of interesting is because he was in the height of a lot of his popularity in the mid '90s.
It was pre-Matrix.
It was pre-Matrix,
But he would have come off of
Speed.
That was right off his Speed.
Yeah.
Johnny Mnemonic was
Yeah.
being just made.
Exactly, and so he was in the middle of
known for Bill and Ted.
Oh yeah,
He was a known person.
And
Yeah.
Point Break.
Point Break.
Yeah,
and-
Point Break.
Yeah.
Point
Break
yeah,
was
Point
91.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he would have been like riding as high as one of the top folks, or let's say the top leading men in Hollywood at that time. And here he comes to Winnipeg to be on stage. Now, of course, I would say you can be quite critical of maybe his classic work because he just doesn't have the cadence for that. But what I thought was kind of interesting was that here he is coming to Winnipeg to be on stage, and I thought that was really kind of neat.
Yeah, and he's done a ton of different. Like when I was thinking back over his looking back at his filmography, he's done so many different things, and he's done stuff that's totally missed.
Yeah,
But it never seems to stick to him. Like he never all of a sudden he just goes on. It doesn't bother him, but it also doesn't seem to stick to his career. Like, wow, he'll never work again.
yeah.
And then he's also done a whole bunch of in different genres. A lot of his films, and I think maybe in my mind I'm blowing this up, but it seems disproportionate to most other actors, most of his peers. A lot of his stuff has been turned into cult classics after the fact, even if it wasn't huge at the time. When you think, I don't think Bill and Ted had a huge box office.
It did well because it landed pretty good.
But it stuck around. But so even if it did do well, but it stuck around as a very cultural. It became it was a thing.
Yeah, and it kind of really laid the groundwork for a whole bunch of films after it, like "Hey Dude, Where's My Car," as well as things like Encino Man. That sort of goofy,
Those type characters, slacker
teen,
Harold
teenage,
and Kumar.
Harold and Kumar, exactly.
Yeah.
It sort of led the groundwork for that.
Point Break,
Yeah.
not huge in its theatrical run, but is like probably a cult status on video. It became a huge thing that a lot of people really. It's a film that a lot of people really deeply, myself included, really love, and it's fun. And even though it's cheesy and very of the '90s and whatever, and he's probably not the best thing in it, but it's really, it's a really great film. The Matrix, obviously. The Matrix, I think it did decently box office, but it came out of nowhere.
Oh, it's huge.
It exploded.
But it came out of nowhere. It was a real random. Like I think when they were making it, they didn't really think it was going to be huge.
It was a $20 million budget or something, which to us is a lot of money, but
And
Hollywood-wise is
it
very much.
redefined action movies for the next, almost decade after it.
Well, especially that sort of sci-fi, borrowing from that sort of Eastern anime kind of look.
It changed filmmaking.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and all the technology that.
Another one that did that was Speed. That Speed was of the Die Hard ilk. That it was it was a film made like after Die Hard in '87 redefined action films, and everything became Die Hard in a insert situation. Speed was Die Hard on a bus.
Yeah.
But it really did. It stood out that there's a lot of other movies of that subgenre, and it's probably the best of the ones outside of the actual Die Hard film.
Yeah, and what's kind of interesting when you look back at it, like Speed was so huge when it came out. Like it was probably one of the bigger films of the '90s, but it's not really one that maybe is on the people's consciousness now. Like a lot of other films of its that
probably
sort of hits that mark.
Probably because he did, around it, he did other stuff that got bigger.
Yeah.
Like nobody remembers him from the '90s for Speed because everybody remembers The Matrix, or he sort of bookended the '90s with Point Break and The Matrix, and Speed is a good high mark in the middle there, but maybe everybody remembers the other two more.
Yeah, you're right. You never sit around and just say, you know what I could watch tonight? I could watch Speed.
But I bet if you sat and rewatched it, it probably, in terms of action films, it holds up a lot better than a lot of other ones does.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
And it's got a great cast. Like Dennis Hopper, just, he's awesome.
More recently, sticking in his action roles, John Wick was another one that came out of nowhere. I don't think the first one did very well at the box office because nobody knew what it was. Yeah. And it, again, really was completely different action style wise versus anything else made in North America at the time. And it's now, it all of a sudden became a trilogy, or the third one's about to come out. And tons of people talk about it as one of the best action films made in years and years. And that's just like, we talk Bill and Ted, his comedy. Most of that was just his action stuff. He's also done other stuff very early on, River's Edge. Oh, I know you're a big fan of River's Edge.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, we can talk about his iconic roles and talk about where he does some of his best acting. I really do think that is what broke him into people's consciousness, and is, I think, his best acting. If you look at his body of his career.
Talk about that for a bit. Go on River's Edge. You're most familiar with it, I think, more than me.
Yeah, and it's definitely, for me, worth another rewatch. But here is
that's the one with River Phoenix, right?
No, that's my personal.
My own private eye. Sorry,
and that one's
with
Gus Van Sant.
Okay.
And to speak to that, we can talk about both.
Okay, well, let's stick with River's Edge for a second. Sorry, I derailed you there.
River's Edge, it's definitely worth another rewatch for me. But from what I recall, I just remember is a young cast. The plot of the story basically is that one of their friends has committed murder, and now they have basically. How they're going to live with the after fact of that and what they're going to do. And here is a young Keanu who will become, a little bit more into that vein of sort of slacker character that we sort of get to know him as in the later 80s. Mm-hmm. Playing in things like Bill and Ted as well as in Parenthood. He sort of has this sort of vein now where he's playing that. But before all that, he was this character who has a little bit more depth to him, even though he's obviously not that typical, someone who would be sort of, I would say like someone who's facing challenges and knows himself as a person who he may not be necessarily the shining light of the dynamic that he's in, but he's playing it very earnestly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably something true of all of Keanu Reeves' characters. One thing that makes his film so rewatchable is the fact that he is just his earnest comes through.
He does. He always, no matter what he's playing in, it's always, got that earnestness.
Because you feel he wants to be there, right? Like you when you look at his filmography and the number of movies he's chosen and some of the movies he's chosen, he's done it because he wants to do it. And when you can tell when somebody's been paid to do a role or somebody's chosen to do a role.
I could not name one where I cannot name a Keanu Reeves movie that you would watch and go, well, he was checked out there and didn't give a shit.
Oh, he's invested.
Even in ones that aren't great, he's in there. He's in it.
Yeah.
And even something like Devil's Advocate, which I don't think is a great film.
No.
But he, you read that he's taken a pay cut, just to make sure.
To get Al Pacino
in. Just to make sure Al Pacino in. And so when he commits to a film, he commits to it.
Mm-hmm. Replacements.
Same thing.
Took a 90% pay cut so Hackman could join the film.
Yeah.
And this was after Matrix, when he could probably, tell me what.
I don't need to do this.
His follow-up film.
It is his follow-up film.
Yeah, so he could have said, you know what, he can make any demand in the world that he wants to make, and here he is taking 90% cut, so that way he can act or bring into the film so they can keep up the budget.
Well, and he just launched as the biggest kick-ass superhero on the planet at the time as Neale. Yeah. And now he's going to come out as some has-been football player in a hokey little,
funny sports comedy.
Sports com, right?
Yeah.
So why?
Yeah.
Read it, loved it, wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Did it.
Yeah, gained 20 pounds of, just so that way he's bulked up a little bit.
Looked a little more believable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Less Neale, more football.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not the first sports movie he did.
No.
Take it all the way back. I cannot speak on it greatly because I know I saw it in my youth, but I can only remember it because it's by Youngblood. I can only remember it by name, and it had a lot of guys in it, like Rob Lowe and Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, Patrick Swayze, and 30 plus, playing like a
20-something, but
junior hockey player.
Yeah, so Keanu Reeves believable as an athlete because I think he was an athlete in real life, but it was actually a knee injury or something that took him out of hockey. I don't know if he would have been NHL caliber, but he could have been something.
The story goes there was an injury. The story also goes he went to Hollywood. So it depends. Like I said, he's always guarded, so you don't know which story of Keanu you're getting.
Did he choose it or did it choose for him?
Yeah, exactly. But love the French accent in Youngblood.
What would be your first movie of him you remember him in?
You know what? Bill and Ted's would probably be the first one.
I think probably for me too.
In.
Yeah. If I go back, I might have seen something earlier, but it's the first one where I sort of took notice of him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what was not to love about Bill and Ted's when it came out, right? It was hit me right in the right demographic, early teen years, right? Like just. How could you not love Bill and Ted? Whoa, dude, right?
Yeah.
Like we all talk like a bunch of doofuses anyways, right? So it just excellent, right? Wild Stallions and the air guitar, and, right?
Did you know it used to have Wild Stallions written all over your scribblers?
I had Wild Stallions.
Really? That literally just popped in my brain. I remember that. For people listening, Alex and I went to middle school together.
Yeah.
So
that and that you used to be able to buy that marker. It was like a silver tip marker when you pushed on it, like silver ink came out. I had the TS for Twisted Sisters, and then I had the Wild Stallion logo as well. Yeah, I mean it was just such a fun movie. Like, and then he spent all those years afterwards, I think, trying to get rid of the dummy complex, right? Like,
which is weird. Jumping ahead a little bit, which is I remember distinctly when the marketing for The Matrix came out, and we saw trailers in theater, that they have the line from, like, it's the scene from in the movie where the first time he's trying to do the jump, and Morpheus does the jump, and then Neo goes, whoa. And I remember thinking at the time, why would you put that line in there?
Yeah.
And then I saw the movie, and it didn't derail it, and that line does not end up being a send-up, but it was a really weird choice considering how big the Bill and Ted thing had been, to then in a movie where you would want to distance yourself from that, have that line. But hey, it worked out.
I know Kung Fu.
I know Kung Fu.
Yeah. There's
I am an FBI agent.
and I think that's the one thing. Like, if I have to say about Keanu Reeves, that maybe is kind of I don't want to say the word held back, because if someone's living a life that is probably a wonderful life. Now, I know there's been lots of tragedies and lots of other challenges that he's facing, but what I mean is, just like a grounded, not lost in kind of what can be that Hollywood machine. But was probably, why is he not a Tom Cruise? Is probably just because of that cadence that he has. Like it is a little bit, it puts him in sort of a bit of a box when sometimes, people can also do like, oh, I know Kung Fu, and they're kind of making fun of it a little bit.
I've read a thing.
Go ahead. No, jump in.
That it was, I can't remember, it was not people, I saw it in a few places, that people theorize that it's like a subconscious thing, that why a lot of audiences will react to Keanu Reeves and like him is because his delivery is so understated and almost blank, that he is the ultimate audience stand-in, that anybody can imagine themselves projected into whatever role he is. So we're all like, we can be this.
That's hilarious.
And actually, there is, I don't know if it still runs, but as of about a year ago, it was still running in LA. It was called Point Break Live, and they would do a live stage recreation of Point Break. And the gimmick was they would pick several people out of the audience every night, audition them live in front of the crowd, and the person who had the least natural ability at acting, they would be Keanu Reeves that night, and they would put their lines up for them on a teleprompter, so people just reading the lines, just being like, I'm an FBI agent, and read his lines, and they all end up with that same cadence because they're just reading off a teleprompter, and it was a huge cult thing to go see in LA, and I would love to see it.
Oh my God, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's hilarious, but hey, maybe it works. And
well, but the flip side of that is he's somebody who doesn't take things too seriously and doesn't let anything kind of, like you said, stick to him, and so it's always kind of fun. Like there's always, because I know that there's always those all kinds of rumors that would come out about him about all kinds of different things, and he would never sweat anything.
Nope.
But the rumors would come out because people couldn't get the right story, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny. You talk about his cadence and his delivery, right? But when I've been watching a lot of interviews with him and listening, even written interviews, they're writing down the swear words he says, right? He's dropping F-bombs or shit or whatever, right? And then he breaks and he goes for a smoke, right? And it's just, he's just that person, right? Like most people get, a little high on the horse, their interviews are all prim and proper, they turn into Mr. Belvedere when they start talking, right? And then, but not Keanu, right? Like he just...
He's just who he is.
If something deserves a shit or a son of a bitch, it deserves it, right? And it's going in, right? You watch him talk about, his motorcycle company. You watch him talk about, he's just never on. When he's talking, he's not on stage.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like he's just talking. He's just shooting the shit, which is probably the best thing about him. And I think that's why, to your point, everybody sees themselves, hey, I could do the Keanu role because he's just one of the guys.
Yeah.
He's worth millions. He's super awesome. He's done movies that we'll never, ever be a part of. But you could have a beer with him. Like
totally. And you see on YouTube clips of him being on a subway, giving up his seat for somebody else. Like here he is in New York.
Yeah, he takes the subway in New York.
In New York, he's
and
taking
he's
a subway.
Huge star.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's also these clips of him. I guess he was on a plane once and had to do an emergency stop in Bakersfield.
it was like a month ago.
Was that?
It was recent. It's in 2019. It's only a couple months old, that story.
Yeah, and of course, he didn't use his celebrity to say, hey, listen, you really need to, hook me up with this or that, or just, just throw down some money so that way he can travel by a different means. But he was the clips that I saw on YouTube was him looking after all the passengers, saying, hey, are you okay to go here, go there? And then there was clips of him like in a car with a whole bunch of other people, and to keep the mood light, he was reading all the facts about Bakersfield. Like he was like saying, oh, did you realize that this is the 7th largest city in California?
It's crazy,
right? And he was just being that sort of. Yeah. He was taking care of people.
They rented a bus to get from Bakersfield to the next airport or wherever it was. Yeah. And instead of him getting a limo or a town car or private jet coming to pick him up, he goes, no, I'll get on the bus.
That's awesome.
And it just 100% has not hit his brain. He doesn't even really know he's famous.
Yeah, well, it's... Yeah, no, and that's what's amazing about him. Like, I think that sort of all that sort of comes through in his roles is that that's that genuine. Like, he feels very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Like now, he's not putting on airs or anything like that. No, but again, not everything hits. But what makes him watchable is the fact that you see somebody who you do want to hang out with, you do want to go with a beer with, and he's very likable.
We talked a few minutes ago there about My Own Private Idaho, and that's what he did do with River Phoenix. Him and River Phoenix were good friends.
Yes,
yeah, best of friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's
that's
movie, one of the aforementioned tragedies there when he lost him.
Yeah, and in that movie they had incredible chemistry, like that. And I think that's what, for me, is what's so great about that film and his performance was just watching the two of them, and it's really sad what how the trajectory of River Phoenix, a star cut short, because I think he would have been somebody who would have been hugely famous. He was interested in directing. He just had a love for film, and for things to end so tragically, it's just so sad. And maybe that's what else another thing about Keanu. There's that sort of air of sadness. That has room in his life that he just sort of walks with, but he doesn't put on other people, or he doesn't let ride his emotions, or he uses acting as a therapy for it. He's
never really been bad. I don't recall anything like a substance abuse problem with him. He's never been really. No. I think he might have got a DUI once or something.
Yeah.
But there's never been like the rehab or something like that.
No, he's not on the celebrity.
And he was obviously right in the middle.
Entertainment or whatever.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Bang. Audio problems in the studio here.
This commercial break brought to you by
Yeah.
Smashing into the boom arm.
Yeah.
So sorry, I derailed you guys there.
No, but they, he even talks about, that subculture of sad Keanu
the
memes
meme.
out there,
Yeah.
right? Like he talks about it, and he doesn't validate it or not validate it in typical Keanu way. But I mean, you talk about all his greatness, but I don't know that's a life. I would say, yeah, I'd switch places with him. If you talk about the stuff that's happened, losing a child, stillborn, right?
Wow.
And then losing his fiance because they couldn't deal with the stress, and then she dies in a car accident, right? His sister battling with cancer,
Yeah.
won the battle, but losing his best friend River Phoenix to the Hollywood monster, basically, right? Like.
Yeah.
He lives yin and yang like every day, right? For every
Time there's something big happen for him, it seems like something bad happens to him.
He's had a tragedy to match. So again, for anybody to be walking around Hollywood with a chip on their shoulder, or like screw this, it could easily be this guy, right? Like he's seen the ugly, but nope.
Yeah.
Where is he? He's on the subway, giving up his seat for somebody. He's on the bus, telling facts about Bakersfield, right? Like this, you kind of got to really idolize the guy and admire the guy. He's a true gentleman in an industry that's known for pull of sharks. Yeah. So it's incredible. He's absolutely one of my favorite actors of all time.
Yeah, and I heard a story of a woman's car broke down. And he picked her up and drove her 50, and where she was going was 50 miles out of his way, but he drove her there.
Because the world waits for Keanu anyways. Yeah. So if he's late, big deal.
So can you imagine, like, all of a sudden,
you're a random person, and then Keanu Reeves is driving you someplace?
Well, your PT Cruiser all of a sudden, he dies on the side of the road, and you're like, oh, man, this is brutal. And somebody pulls over to help you. And
what's the brutal part of the story? That it broke down, or that you're driving a PT Cruiser in the first place?
And then all of a sudden, Keanu goes,
boom, cheap shot.
You know what? I'll give you a ride. Where are you going? Well, I'm going 50 miles that way. Like that's just incredible.
I would have liked to seen the follow-up stories with how many other cars accidentally, that was air quotes for those of you who can't see that on radio, accidentally broke down on the same stretch of highway during the following week.
I'd like to see a stat on how many of them were PT Cruisers. That's a joke that's funny to one person in this room. Anyways, Warren, hit us. Pick a favorite one. Pick not your absolute favorite. I don't know. Just throw one. Throw a Keanu movie out there. Let's start chewing a few.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let me throw it back at you guys because I have not seen John Wick.
Okay.
And I'd love to know more about it because I have actively avoided John Wick, to be honest. So,
and I know why.
Yeah, and you have
and I totally 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Because I fast forward that part of the film.
Yeah, and so
I cannot stand. I cannot. It's a thing I have. I can watch people slaughtered by the dozens in the most horrible ways in a film. I can watch people do horrible things to each other in true stories, non-true stories, whatever, and I can feel sick about it and feel awful, but I let the movie affect me. I cannot watch animals get hurt on film, even though when I know it's fake.
I go grab food.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time it's on, I go grab food.
I walk out of the theater, I fast forward, whatever. I get past that spot.
Yeah, and it. I agree. It's a tough rewatch.
Yeah.
Love the movie.
Every other part of that is it's an extremely kinetic action film. He does most of his stunts. The camera work is constantly right in there, so you can tell it's really Keanu, that it's not a stunt double.
You're right.
Well, they didn't have the budget to do. They had to do long shots. So every shot.
By long shots, he means continuous shots,
right?
Like oneers, not shot long.
So they had to. Every move that they put in the action sequence was legit. Keanu, can you do this?
Wow.
And if he could do it, they filmed it. If he couldn't do it, didn't make the movie.
Wow.
So it's Keanu at his finest, right? Like it's all him. So,
and knowing him, he's that type of guy who probably training for that for like months on end just so he could do it right.
Very brutal, kinetic, very dynamic action. Tons of style because there's a lot of Russian in the film, and the subtitles aren't just traditional subtitles boring on the bottom of the screen in most versions. For some reason, Netflix Canada stripped the titles off of it and put traditional, or I guess it was given Netflix. It's how I saw it. When I saw it on Netflix Canada, it has traditional subtitles on the bottom.
Yeah.
When you
Okay.
see it in its more original theatrical release form, the subtitles are in the middle of the screen all over the place, and they're in different fonts, and sometimes there'll be a word accentuated and stuff like that. And
Oh,
it's very
interesting.
cool. Yeah.
Almost comic booky.
Almost, yeah. So it had a lot more style, and then somebody decided that was too distracting, I guess, and stripped it and just made traditional ones on Netflix. But I don't get that. But it was, very cool, very stylish, and
I put John Wick in my top 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Keanu
I do.
films or all
Wow.
films?
Keanu films.
Yeah?
Top 3 Keanu films. Yeah.
I hadn't even
wow.
thought of a list. We'll have to maybe try to make a list at the end here, but I hadn't even thought of what my top ones were.
Yeah,
But-
I maybe I'll try. I don't know if I can. I have 4 dogs at home.
You know what? At some point,
tough to,
if you want to, at some
Yeah.
point we'll watch the intro, and I know precisely the point to stop it, and I'll get past the
jeez.
part, and then we'll just pick it up after that.
I don't know.
It's horrible.
You can watch it
I-
with that part cut out, and,
Yeah.
and you don't need to see that part to
You can then just
understand
become
what's going on.
once again.
But even that part
Keanu's
happening,
the
it-
ultimate cipher, though. He becomes
maybe-
you because
Oh.
he can now he embodies your rage because he goes on this kill spree.
Yeah.
100% based on the fact that they killed his dog. That is the entire. They don't kill his wife. His wife's already dead. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Yeah.
If they don't, the mob doesn't come and kill his wife. They don't do anything else to him. He goes on this murder spree because
Because
well,
they killed his dog.
they steal his car and they kill his dog.
No, I think
it's
the
his
car
dog,
was
and he can
irrelevant.
replace his car because he immediately replaces his car. But it's basically like you killed my dog, and he murders the fuck out of people, out of the whole Russian mob because they killed his dog.
Angry kills people
Yeah.
because they killed his dog.
Yeah,
like
it's not a watch for the faint stomach. Like I have a couple of friends that they don't like, and I'd be like, yeah, no, maybe not this movie for you because it's pretty brutal. But it's like
it's gun porn.
You can handle it.
And you know what? It may not be brutal enough.
it might not be, but
considering the story.
completely fueled on that. So I did not see it theatrically. It sort of blew past, and I didn't even know it had happened. And I eventually saw it. Hated the dog part. Loved the rest.
Yeah.
Fantastic film. You agreed there, Alex?
I love it. I didn't know this at first, but I love the Matrix connection.
Oh, what's that?
Isn't it
So the director of the
the
Matrix, I have his name written down because I can't pronounce it.
stunt
half the
coordinator of
time.
the Matrix?
Or the director of
John Wick?
Chad Stileski. Sorry, if
I butcher names all the
it's
time on here.
Chad Stileski was the director of John Wick.
Okay.
Was Keanu's stunt double in the
Stunt
Matrix.
double. That's what it
Oh,
was.
no
Okay,
way.
yeah.
So here's a guy who stood in for Keanu for all the stunts of all 3 Matrix movies.
Oh, wow.
And now he's directing them in John Wick.
Wow.
So I was like, that's awesome. So talk about 2 guys who know how each other work, right?
Yeah.
So perfect connection.
I will give you a second Matrix parallel.
Okay.
Just like the first Matrix was amazing and I loved it. John Wick, the first one, amazing and I loved it.
Jeez.
Second Matrix was a piece of garbage. The second John Wick bored the shit out of me. I was like, eh. And I don't know why. It's got the same kind of cool ass action. He's doing shit still. It's a lot of the same things. Ian McShane's back. I always love Ian McShane
awesome.
as a walk on, as a smaller part. He's awesome. I wish he was in bigger parts. But I just sat bored to tears by it. Just like, yep, okay, yep. It was just. So I don't know why. I hope the third one's better.
Yeah, hopefully it bookends it,
Yeah,
right?
but it could be like the Matrix, because where the third one was even worse. Sorry, I'm shoveling dirt.
We'll knock on all sorts of wood to hope that doesn't happen.
Sorry,
right? So
I shouldn't have really shit on. Do you like the Matrix?
I love the first one.
Yeah.
The second one didn't make enough impact on me for me to watch the third one.
Haven't even bothered with the third
Nope.
one, eh? My
Nope.
God. 2.5 hours of your life that you've saved. Don't ever spend them. Warren? We're off on a tangent. This show's all over the place tonight.
Yeah.
I swear I'm not drunk.
I remember
This is water, not
seeing
gin.
The Matrix on opening weekend,
Yep.
and it was in a time in which I was loving films like John Woo, and so to all of a sudden have this real sci-fi action sequence or action film, I was so jazzed and pumped after I saw it. 2 and 3 to me is almost forgettable. Like I honestly couldn't tell you the plots of them anymore. Like I'd have to actively watch them again, just because it did not land for me at all. So
I think Matrix 1 is really awesome because it functions as a really awesome action film.
Yeah.
They created, what's it, bullet time? Is that what it's
Bullet
called?
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
they innovated that new camera technique, whatever, to freeze people in the air on camera and do all those really awesome. It was so innovative, different. Nothing had looked like it, at least nothing in North America before that, and it was amazing. Also functions as a really good speculative science fiction film.
Yeah.
That is a really good, there was an actual, unlike a lot of when people say, a science fiction action film, whatever, but it's basically just they're fighting an alien thing. This actually had hardcore science fiction at the core of it.
Absolutely.
And it was a really great story about, machines using people as power sources, even though the science doesn't work out. But it was a really cool idea. Really loved it. And then the second and third one got two in their own heads, that they all of a sudden the Wachowskis
They try to
started
double
believing
down
their
on
own
some of the philosophy and
exactly.
the myth,
and
the,
all
the
of a sudden
mythology
they
of
really
it.
thought they
Yeah.
oh hey, we've got a really thing here, and it's like, no, you've overreached and it's not nearly as good as the original was.
Yeah, at that time I was teaching English, and it was a film that I brought in just to talk about symbolism and character arcs and character dynamics and things like that. It's a film I love the style of it. I love the look of it. And it holds up really well, even 20 years later.
You and I
now.
have a really funny story about seeing The Matrix 20 years later.
Yeah, go for it.
It was last year, right?
Yeah, it was
it came out
at least a year ago.
Yeah, so at some point last year, I think it was before, I can't remember what it was. It was something, they run sometimes themed films leading up to a big, there was a big sci-fi release coming up, so
Might have been Red Sparrow, maybe.
No, might have been Blade Runner.
Was it
2049.
Blade Runner?
It was probably before Blade Runner.
Maybe
Was that
it
a couple years ago then?
Maybe.
Anyway, we're getting off topic here. Anyways, it was at Classic Film Series. And it was a 10 o'clock in the morning show at Grant Park.
Oh, boy.
So Warren and I go
Yeah.
Saturday morning.
The only ones in the theater.
We walked in. Holy shit, we're having a private show. This is awesome. So we get settled in our seats. And at the Grant Park Cinema here in Winnipeg, all shows are, you pick your seat. You don't just walk in and select it. You buy that seat. It's selected seating. So we've picked in our ideal spot. We like it. All right, we're in our happy place. We're sitting in there. And literally 1 minute before the movie starts, in walks another guy. And he's got nachos and popcorn and a big drink clutched.
Yeah.
And a theater employee follows him in with his hot dog, and something else.
Yeah,
this
some sort of ice
guy's
cream
having
treat.
guy's having a feast. He is hitting for he's eating this and I'm like, oh, okay.
Was he like from Make-A-Wish? Was this like his
No,
final?
I don't know.
I am going to
The
watch
last
The
meal.
Matrix.
But
with
I was
all-
like, hey,
gee.
I enjoy popcorn and a drink, sometimes nachos. But hey, you know what? You be you. I was all cool. I did not. The fact that he had his feast did not bother me. But he's
Did he sit
walking
right
up
beside
the-
you?
No, directly in front of me, specifically the exact seat in front of me.
Yeah.
He looked at
Yeah,
the
three
theater
people.
map.
Three people in the theater.
He looked at the computer map and saw there's only 2 seats bought so far, and he picked the one exactly in front of us. And it's okay because at Landmark, your seats are elevated, so it's all good. It's not like he was blocking my sight line.
Tell me he was a loud chewer.
No, it wasn't. But it just struck me so weird that I just looked at Warren, he looked at me, and I just mouthed to him, "What the fuck?" And this guy sat down and then had his whole damn snack, his whole feast there, and I was like, why would he pick the seat exactly in front of us?
Maybe that's his seat.
I'm guessing it was his seat, but for some reason in the moment it was so funny, and the two of us chuckled about it the
couldn't stop
entire
laughing.
movie. It was so funny.
You say in front of us, but actually it was in front of Neale.
Yeah,
Which is
specifically
which
in
is
front
why
of me.
I thought it was funny.
but the movie held up. It was amazing, and then we got this new great story about it.
Yeah, the effects really hold up really well, and and it's a fun story, and it's hit the public consciousness. How many times do people now talk about, are we living in a simulation theory, and they just say, are we in the Matrix?
Are we in the Matrix?
Are we in
That's
the Matrix?
that's lexicon. That's
Exactly.
that's in our zeitgeist
Yeah,
permanently.
And what a great cast! It was a fabulous cast.
Fantastic. Oh yeah,
Carrie-Anne Moss.
Carrie-Anne Moss. That was the first thing I think I really saw her in.
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne was awesome.
Yeah.
Keanu was awesome.
Yeah.
What's the name of the guy that plays Cypher?
Best on-screen couple MTV award that year.
Was it really?
MTV Awards.
Best on-screen duo, Lawrence Fishburne and
No way.
Keanu Reeves
Oh.
for The Matrix.
There we go.
Hey, those are real awards.
Yeah.
You know what? They're no less valid, I guess, than
He would-
than an Oscar.
He
But,
won
you
it
know,
twice. Once for him and Sandra Bullock in Speed, and once with Lawrence Fishburne in The Matrix.
2-time best on-screen couple.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah. But it came at a time where it just hit the right note at the right time, and it hit it in a way that was just out of the park.
It did. I will say that in the two sequels, even though I hated the stories, it did have a really cool. The second one did have a really cool action sequence, like the freeway chase and the fight immediately preceding it. There's about like a 30-minute span there where, action wise, I thought it was pretty dope. The rest of it's just garbage. But
so the bike that Carrie-Anne Moss rides in the second movie.
That is a special color of green. Is that where you're going? Did I just scoop your?
It's a special color of green.
Matrix green.
Keanu has it.
Yeah, in his bike shop.
In his bike shop. It actually belongs to the Wachowskis.
Oh wow!
But he's the guardian of it.
Yeah, he's got custodianship
and
of it.
And it says Matrix Reloaded on the back
Really?
fender. Like it's a hot bike, but yeah, he's still got it. So,
And if I'm not mistaken, he bought his all the stunt people Harleys.
20 Harley Davidsons for the
That was in the
stunt
first
people.
Matrix, I think.
For the first Matrix, yeah.
Yeah.
As well as donated, I don't know, something ridiculous to all the special effects. Anybody who's working on special effects, he gave
You know
part of
what?
his salary.
Actually,
to
I think we're now thinking that's actually on the sequels he did that, because
That
that's where he
was-
made all the money.
Was that where it was?
Yeah, because
I know it was-
payday for the sequels would have been monstrous.
Yeah,
and,
and then he
I
gave a
think
lot
he
of it to
gave
the
a ton of it
effects.
back.
Yeah.
He got $10 million up front before they even shot a second of the Matrix. Like he was big already.
Oh, then
at
maybe it was that
point.
one. I know it was. Okay, so I know there's an anecdote about on one of the Matrix films.
Yeah.
He gave a shit ton of his salary to the special effects people, going, "You guys were the heroes of this thing and didn't get paid enough." So he just gave it to them, like you said.
$80 million to the special effects people.
Was it 80 million?
80 million.
Okay, then I would bet that's off the second one, then, because that's when his payday would have been even that
That's
much
incredible.
higher.
That's. Could you imagine
Yeah.
being on the special effects? I mean, you get paid, but you don't get Keanu paid.
No.
And then Keanu pays you.
Yeah.
Keanu money.
Yeah.
Right?
Except that
Like-
when you split that 80 million amongst all the special effects, all the digital effects people, so many of them work on it. It comes out to
It's a
about
dollar.
$1.50 each. But hey, you know what? I'm being
If it's a
catty.
million people,
I'm being
it's-
catty.
But
But yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And like just feeds back into like other times when he just like gives his salary back to get a movie made and bring in a bigger star.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bigger star than him.
Exactly, and he's also known to all of a sudden bring in lunch for the crew, and get, and basically what other people say too is that he's that type of person who goes, okay, well, tell me your name, tell me your, he wants to know about you. It's not just about him, and
well, he has a cancer charity right after his, sister's
Not surprising.
battle.
Yeah.
Doesn't have his name on it anywhere.
No.
Donates money to it, but doesn't have his name on it anywhere, right? Because it's not for him, right? It's for cancer patients. So
Wow.
he puts his money in there, but it's not the Keanu Reeves Fund or the Keanu Reeves Cancer Care. It's, I actually don't even know the name of it, but it's, it didn't have to put his name on it. He's a philanthropist, right? Like he really is this guy, right? Like you got to sit back, and even with, if you want to Bill and Ted him, or you want to John Wick him, or Neo him, whoever you want, what character you want to put him in. At the end of the day, you go, man, this is one cool dude.
Yeah.
Like, again, he's one of us with a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
Put yourselves back in 1999 for a second here. I'm going to skip back. I'm going to dig back into the Matrix itself, and it just popped in my brain. Do you recall, did either of you guys, anybody jump in, do you have a recollection of how good the twist in the Matrix hit you? Like, did you see it coming? Did it really bend your brain? Or can you remember it all? For me, it melted my brain. I didn't see...
When he took the pill?
The first time seeing it, I did not get it. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so when he popped out, and they explain, and Morpheus explains the whole thing to him, I was like, holy shit, that melted my brain. The whole idea, I was not aware of simulation theory before that film. And I was like, holy shit, that baked my brain good.
Yeah, I mean,
Can you remember?
We were young adults in the at the end of the 90s, right? Like, no, I wasn't thinking about stuff like that. What do you mean I could possibly be part of an alternate universe or something like that? Yeah, you leave that movie, I don't think I slept well that night. I'm actually, I can tell you the truth, I did not sleep well that night. That was my brain going a million miles an hour going, you pinch yourself every now and then, like,
Could it be?
Is
Could
this
it be?
real?
I'm doing that
Could
right
this
now.
happen?
Could it be?
Yeah, like it's
Is this super like layers of meta that we are sitting here discussing simulation theory and the Matrix
in simulation theory.
are flipping like how our brains got flipped then, and we are actually in a simulation. We are in the Matrix. Warren, what was your reaction? Do you remember it?
Maybe not so much that, but just the effects of it. Like I remember just my mind going wild with the editing of course, the first making that big jump and all of a sudden the cement cracking, but even the helicopter and how everything sort of got bendy and then the bullet time and then just the fight sequences and just how And for me, one of the scenes I do go back and revisit quite a bit is when they go through the security check. And
he's got all the guns.
And all the guns, and all of a sudden, like slow motion, and you got that sort of house music playing, and everything, and they're doing like the cartwheel behind the pillar, and part of the pillar gets shot out, and all the bullets go flying. To me, that's what I would say if the shock and awe of the film. Those are what stands out for me is the effects, and that scene in particular, just because, like I mentioned, in those days I was like watching lots of like John Woo kind of
Hong Kong stuff,
and just that sort of elegant sort of ballet, violence as ballet kind of scenes, and just watching that
elegant chaos,
yeah. Yeah, and so for me,
that defines this podcast tonight. Elegant chaos.
There we go.
Maybe not just tonight. Maybe on a regular occasion, but specifically tonight, I feel like this is elegant chaos.
I agree.
And I'm going to retroactively say that I did it on purpose as a tribute to that scene.
There we go. Well done.
Brought it all home.
And then the other thing I
wish
say,
I had a bellhop Bing right now.
There we go.
I need a bell.
To tie it all in together.
I need a bell.
Yeah. And then Hugo Weaving. I was not familiar with him until that film, and also I went, okay, who's this guy?
Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how he delivered his lines and his chemistry with
Mr.
Keanu.
Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
But to your point, Neil, how many people after that movie went home and tried to bend the spoon?
I still try to do it.
And probably, if you want to talk about the mind-blowing part, it's not just when he drops out into this alternate universe, but when he goes and visits
the Oracle?
The Oracle.
Yeah.
And she goes, don't worry about the plant.
The vase.
Or the vase.
Yeah.
And then she goes, so the question is,
would you have broken it if I hadn't said anything?
I've watched this movie 3 weeks ago, and it still screws with me.
It still does.
Right?
Like,
it's like, huh.
It's fantastic that it holds up so well too, and that's a testament to that the entire film is excellent. That even it's not built on the twist, like it doesn't live and die on that twist. That even when you know the twist is coming, the movie still entertains like crazy.
Yeah, and there's also this like little layers. The fact that his name is Neale. Okay, that's he flipped that word around to be the one. His other name is Thomas Anderson, right? Mm-hmm. The Doubting Thomas. Anderson, being the original son. Like there's a lot of nice little kind of layers in that film that you just pull back and you can connect to, some different mythologies and things.
I'll tell you this, and I'm not making this up. This just popped in my brain that about 6 or 7 years ago at Christmas time, I was at St. Vital Mall. I don't know why me and my ex-wife decided we should go to St. Vital Mall at Christmas time, and it was just chaos there. But so she got in line, I think, to get us some food someplace. I got in line at Starbucks to get us some coffees, and it was the person behind taking the order. You couldn't hear anything, and the person, English was not their first language, and she asked me my name, and I said Neale, and she asked it again, and she really couldn't hear it, and okay, so then she had it, and I got my cup, and my cup said Neo, and I was like, holy shit.
Holy Matrix, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this place is about
yourself.
to erupt in some kung fu fighting. This is going to be amazing. But yeah, so I may be the one. But thanks for bringing up the one there and reminding me of that story. But
there you go. I'm circling it Thomas because I have a little bit of doubts.
There you go. Never
Mr.
doubt me.
Anderson, yeah. Okay, boss.
Alex, throw us another one. Pick one. I don't know. Drop one up. What were you about to say?
I was going to throw it at you, but you threw it at me first.
Yeah, bang, volley.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You know what? I'm going with Constantine.
Constantine. Okay, this is one I'm not super familiar with.
So, I was thinking coming on today, what are my what are my top 3 favorite Keanu movies?
Right.
And they're not my top 3 most watched Keanu movies. Yeah,
okay.
Which is kind of interesting, right? So, Constantine is probably my most watched Keanu movie. I own it. I got it on DVD.
Okay, I'm going to have to borrow it because I cannot even say if I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
I don't recall that I've ever seen it.
No, I've years ago, it was you and I watched the movie for the first time. We watched The Prophecy.
Yes. We can do a whole episode about The Prophecy someday.
Right? Kind of ever since that movie, the whole angels on earth kind of philosophy has always been a genre that I kind of enjoy. And I'll even watch the crappy ones like Legion and stuff like that, right? But I've always enjoyed that type of movie, right? Constantine reminds me a lot of The Prophecy. He plays a character again. I believe it's another John in this movie. If I
John
remember.
Constantine is the character.
Yeah, John Constantine.
Yeah.
Right?
I know the character. I will.
Yeah.
It's just for anybody. If I do have some knowledge here, I have not seen the film, but I'm familiar with the character. He's a DC Comics character, and he was actually, they did one season of a TV show about the character a few years back,
Right.
and then he flipped onto some other DC Arrowverse shows. So I am familiar somewhat with the IP. But go ahead.
It's got a young Shia LaBeouf in it as his kind of quirky sidekick in it. It's just a movie about a guy who fights demons on Earth and sends them back to hell. For those of you who haven't seen it, might want to see it. I won't go too deep into the spoilers. But again, in kind of Keanu style, he plays a good guy / bad guy who's forced to save the world or kind of the universe that he's in. In this particular instance, he's saving all of mankind from the devil's son as kind of a psychic kind of, or a, demon superhero fighter, right? Kind of thing. So again, not one of his greatest movies, pretty well bombed at the box office. He always talks about that he wishes some of his Keanu fame would follow him to the box office. That's kind of the interesting thing. Everybody loves Keanu Reeves, right? But
They don't always turn up for his movies.
nah, they don't always turn up for his movies, right? 47 Ronin, probably another one that I could throw out there that I've probably my most second watched,
Really?
Keanu movie. Yeah. And, thank you to, channels like Showcase and Space who will play these movies, 45 times in a month, and I'll watch it as I'm getting ready for work in the morning, and then I'll watch it at 2 o'clock in the morning again. One of those great with commercial kind of movies. But yeah, Constantine is a movie that when you look at everything else he's done, it's kind of like, okay, why Constantine? But again, not dialed in. He's kind of this cross between almost Neo and John Wick in it. It's got a little bit of badass. He's his typical hair in the eyes, shaggy beard, kick-ass Street Fighter guy. And it's just, I think it's a really fun movie. And if you haven't seen it, I challenge anybody out there, if you haven't seen it, watch it.
I will. He borrowed it to me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
should have borrowed it before this, but hey, I didn't. I was very ill prepared for this one today. I'm just like, I haven't even checked out anything. But I think the ones I'm familiar with enough that I was like, no, I'm just gonna swing forward here.
Yeah, I have not seen Constantine, but I do have it. It's sitting on my shelf, and it's one of those ones.
Okay, wait, you have everything though.
Yeah,
You,
fair enough.
I love
There's
sitting.
not enough hours.
I love
in the
yeah.
day to go through
If
that.
I can go on a tangent here, Alex, sometimes sometimes a lot of the time we go to secondhand DVD stores or pawn shops, Warren and I, and Warren sits there staring at movies and trying to think if he has them or not.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I've got this or not. And I'm like, why just grab it? It's not like it'll be the first one that you have multiple copies of.
I'm sure I got a couple of doubles somewhere. I
Yeah,
think.
a few. Yeah, but all right. I guess I'll throw one out there.
Okay.
I hadn't really intended this to be like, what's my favorite, but I'm going to say that almost like, even though I have not watched it a ton recently, just because I don't have it on, and I almost went out this morning and bought it on Blu-ray, and I might buy it before the week's out because I keep going, I don't really need it. I don't need to study it for this, but then I'm kind of like, I just keep wanting to see it. Is the aforementioned Point Break.
Yes.
Point Break, and it's more than just a Keanu movie.
100%. Yeah.
It's
my third most watched.
it is
there
a
you go.
phenomenal performance from Patrick Swayze in a
Fun.
role that would not be what you at that time would have been. It would have been going against the grain of his traditional roles.
Yeah.
Catherine Bigelow, great director. An early thing of hers. She went on to be an Oscar award-winning director with The Hurt Locker and has directed great films. But early work from her. This might even be her first film.
No. I know she did Near Dark before.
Near Dark. Okay, so probably, but early in her career.
Yeah.
Keanu in it.
Gary Busey.
Gary Busey.
yeah.
Before anybody realized Gary Busey was insane, and when you
see it coming in that movie,
when
though.
Point Break came out, everybody just thought he was he really chewed the scenery here. Gary went for it here. No, I think this is Gary went off the rails, and this is the real Gary Busey. Please stand up. One of my favorite lines in a movie, period. Like this might be like in my top 50 quotes from any movie is, Utah, Give me 2. And I say it to people that don't understand the reference or anything just because I love watching their faces. Fantastic, fun, good action film. Different, cool skydiving sequence in it that Patrick Swayze actually did. That the one jump, there's a shot of where he falls backwards out of the plane, and it's a continuous shot of him falling. That was shot, and they just followed him out of the plane with it. Lots of cool stuff that we see now a lot in films. Back then, not so much. If you recall it, there's a chase, like when they're busting up the FBI. Keanu and Gary Busey are FBI agents, so they're infiltrating. I don't know who would not have seen Point Break at this point in the world, but when they're chasing them through they bust their house and they're chasing a couple of them through the alley.
And for all you youngsters, this is the original version of Point Break.
Oh yeah,
there is only one version.
2000.
Warren and I saw that at the Cheaps, and we paid $250 a seat for it, and that was overpaying by $275. That was horrible. It shall not be spoken. That's a whole other podcast. Sorry to tangent here again. That today, thinking about Point Break, I had an idea for another episode at some point we may do. That's just movies that can't be remade. That they try to, and they just the remakes are just utter failures. They're not just, well, this wasn't as great. They're just utter failures compared to the original.
Don't hold back. You should really say what you think about the remake.
God, it's horrible. It is offensively horrible.
Sorry I brought it up.
Offensively horrible.
Touchy.
I'm glad there's a table between us.
Yeah. But it was a scene where Keanu's chasing Patrick Swayze through alleys and stuff, and through back and
so
back
climbing the fence,
fences, and it's all handheld. It was done with some kind of a jury rigged steady cam and stuff like that. Just lots of cool action sequences in it. Also, if you look at it, it is absolutely a prototype for a later action film for Fast and Furious. The Fast and Furious launched an entire franchise. What, to 9 now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing about if you
include Hobbs and
Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
If you compare the first Fast and Furious to Point Break, it's about a young up and coming hotshot FBI agent who goes undercover to infiltrate a gang
with a group of buddies.
In the first one, it was surfing bank robbers and extreme sport bank robbers. In Fast and Furious, it's road racers, extreme racers.
Who knock off semi-trailers.
The main character starts dating a waitress who has a personal connection to the leader of the gang.
Sounds familiar.
He ends up getting folded in. The gang leader is a person of great charisma who ends up basically almost converting the main character into a disciple. And to top it all off, both gangs drink Coronas. This is... Somebody owes somebody money here somewhere. Yeah. The only kind of place it deviates is...
And Neale would like his cut for presenting the...
Oh, no, I did not. No. Other people have noticed this too. I did not originate this idea. I just fully believe in it. But the only way it sort of derivates is in how the action in the last part goes, But then even when you get to the very ending, at the end, the main character lets the bad guy go and tosses his badge down. I think the Fast and the Furious, you're more familiar with Fast and Furious, but I think they even ape that thing of tossing the badge down and walking away.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So really, it's a prequel to the Fast and the Furious almost, or it's a soul brother to it at least. And it's achieved a real cult status over time.
Yeah.
There's a whole underground of people that love it. As I mentioned earlier, they had that Point Break live in LA and stuff like that. And it's just a movie that I just have a deep, non-ironic love of it. Even though it came out in 91, I think it's almost, I sometimes call it the last 80s action film. That it's almost like a lot of it feels like it's a holdover from the 80s.
I know what you mean. Yeah. It really feels like it has that sort of nuance.
The style, a lot of the style of it and what have you, it feels very much like an 80s action film, and that's not a slight. That's like,
no, it's an end of an era film.
And I kind of think it's the last of them. I can't think of another one that's high profile that came after that, and then action films shifted and changed and evolved and whatever. And I really love Point Break.
I would love to have been there for the pitch of it. All right, so we have an FBI agent who has to infiltrate a whole bunch of surfers who go because they're robbing banks. Like, I would love to see what that pitch me would have been.
But it's one of those things that's just crazy enough to go like, yeah, I'll watch that. I'll watch the pitch. If you pitched that to me cold, I'm pretty sure I would go, yeah, I'm down. But John C. McGinley, another great guy, and there is, and he's playing a very 80s, it was a trope in the 80s of having like the angry chief or the angry police boss. Yeah. But name me a better one than John C. McGinley. I got his name right? John.
I think so.
Yeah, it's John C. McGinley. Yeah. No, John C. Reilly is the other actor.
Oh yeah.
This is John C. McGinley. Yeah. Can you just fact check me on that, Alex? Because for some reason I'm thinking I'm confusing it with a character name of somebody. But and I just love Point Break. Nice. Do you have any kind of what's your thoughts on Point Break?
That's fun. Actually, Catherine Bigelow is someone who I like her films right from when I saw Near Dark before that, and I went, okay, this is a really cool little vampire film. It's a small independent, so she's on my radar, and I think she would done, if I'm not mistaken, Blue Steel before Point Break.
Oh, Blue Steel was her too?
That was her as well.
Wow.
And so for me, going to that film was largely because, to be honest, with Catherine Bigelow, because I thought she's really cool, and that film to me kind of delivered that what I like. And of course, after that, I think it was Strange Days, maybe.
It is John C. McGinley.
It is John. Yeah,
okay,
I got it up here.
Yeah.
And so
Strange Days too. Holy shit, we could do a whole Catherine Bigelow episode.
Oh, totally.
I love Strange Days.
Strange Days is an amazing movie.
Exactly. And then she sort of dipped, or I don't know, she then she was quiet for a while, and then she kind of came back on everyone's radar, or for at least my radar again with The Hurt Locker.
Yeah, The Hurt Locker is amazing.
Zero
Dark 30 is her as well?
Yeah, I think so. I want to say yes. I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
Welcome to the Catherine Bigelow podcast.
Not to derail this, but basically,
hell no, this thing was derailed from the start.
But basically, I just remember it being really kind of fun and kind of cool, and which is what I really appreciate about Near Dark was just it was a really neat kind of fun little film about this band of folks who are dealing with sort of like this infestation of vampires, and Point Break, it's just there's this great chemistry. And I guess the one thing I'm going to walk away from in this conversation with the two of you guys is that I never really thought about before, but Keanu Reeves is somebody who even though if I sort of would think of him as an actor, I would think, okay, maybe he's a little bit wooden just because of the way he sort of delivers dialogue, but he really does have really good chemistry on screen with people. Like you were mentioning Sandra Bullock earlier, and that was for me her introduction to my consciousness, and the two of them were great.
Sandra Bullock movie for
he's a great scene partner for people.
Exactly,
he seems to bring out good things in other actors.
Yeah, and in Point Break, him and Patrick Swayze were awesome. Like they had great chemistry together, and you totally bought their relationship. And the scene you talk about where all of a sudden he points the gun up in the air and fires, there's an emotional core there that wasn't in the
it's not on the page. Yeah. Oh, and it definitely was not in the remake.
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. And so then
that's almost a sub podcast we could do, just me talking about how much I hate the Point Break remake.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned Crystal Skull. We'll change the.
We should just do a thing about ones I hate, and we'll just get the whole list, and I will just flip furniture over here in the studio.
But I think with Point Break, the other thing I like the takeaway from that was adding Lori Petty as the main female, right? Not your typical, airhead bimbo, she's not running through the whole surfer movie in dress and high heels.
No, and not helpless.
Yeah.
No, and not helpless, right? So it kind of almost changed that, the leading lady role in an action movie a little bit as well, right? Like
especially for that era. Holy cow.
So she had the short hair, not helpless, a surfer, right? Like everything you wouldn't expect out of a leading lady role for that time, right? So it was just a well put together movie.
Now they did damsel her in the third act, but
they did,
But that's but along the way though, it was not. She was not just like you said, ditzy and whatnot, and not just like the pretty girlfriend,
right?
And then what I'm excited about is revisiting that film because it's been a long time since I've seen it. Because the only things that really pop in my head now are them playing football on the beach with all the lights,
car
lights, which I thought was really kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it next week now. Yeah. Damn it, and I was going to go buy it this morning, and then I didn't. I got lazy to get off the couch, and But now just talking about it, I'm like super excited about it again.
Gonna
I wish it would be a classic film series. I've
Yeah,
never seen it on
see,
the big.
that'd be
I don't
great
think I
to be on
saw
the
it
big screen.
theatrically.
Yeah, that'd be
and I would
good.
love to see it on the big screen.
We got to get
Especially that last shot of Patrick Swayze walking out.
You know what?
into the ocean.
Yeah, like
I'm
for me,
putting
the
it-
big screen. That was.
I'm putting
awesome
it
the
on.
big
Yeah,
screen,
the
Alex. I was
100-year storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I'm
Yeah.
putting it on my list because, and this is another tangent. I don't give a shit that I'm sort of right now been planning next year in the I guess the 40th anniversary of Jaws to organize a screening of Jaws at the
There
local
you
park
go.
theater. And you know what? Another one. If that works out, I'm going to then pick up. I'm going to pick up Point Break as another cult film and see if there's
There
an
you go.
interest in getting a screening together of that and have a Point Break
2021.
party.
2021.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
We need dead president masks if we're going to go watch it. Though.
Hell
you
yeah.
go.
It wasn't dead presidents. It was the ex-presidents.
Ex-president.
Was it ex-president?
Ex-president.
I don't
Well,
think Reagan wouldn't have been dead yet. And Jimmy Carter still ain't
okay,
dead.
Okay, you're right.
He's the ex-president.
Right.
Ex-president.
That's my
Yeah.
bad. I said that.
Now, I don't know if this is getting off on a thing here. I don't know if this was an intentional nod in the film, but correct me if I'm wrong on my history. Reagan was the U.S. president in the early 80s when they had the gas crisis, right?
Yep.
And the
It was early 80s.
and the oil crisis. Okay,
Like there was because I remember 1980 being the assassination
Yeah.
attempt on him.
yeah.
But wasn't the gas crisis 78?
Was it? Okay, possibly. I'm not sure, but so I always thought there was sort of kind of if there was an intentional or an unintentional symbolism to him in the Reagan mask at the gas station, turning the gas pump into a flamethrower and burning that car.
Oh, funny.
I don't know if that was an intended thing or not, but maybe I just invented a thing in my head that doesn't really line up with history. But hell,
In my head, I thought it was Jimmy Carter, like 78.
you know,
right
maybe
before Reagan
maybe you're
came in.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was a weird thing when I was thinking
Wow.
about the imagery of the film recently. I'm like, I wonder if that's a thing.
Yeah, it was 79.
Was it? Okay. I'm just going to clip
President
out.
Carter.
I'm going to clip out
There
the
we go.
last 2 minutes.
Hurrah.
If that had been a
Warren for
Carter
three
mask,
from the corner.
if that had been a Carter mask, it would have made sense. And now that we've shot myself down about it, I have to now leave the clip in and take the hit because I've left stuff in where I've really thrown dirt on you, Warren.
Well,
Cheap
throw
shots
dirt
at
on me.
you.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah, there you
taken
go.
cheap shots at you in the past and episodes that I've left it in
Okay,
because I felt
there-
so I will leave this one in.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how the way it goes the other way around, it all of a sudden disappears from the episode. I
Hey,
have to
you
comment.
know what? That's I'm tight with the editor. But hey, somebody throw out another one. What's another great one we can chew up for a bit?
Well, I want to talk about Dracula.
Okay.
Okay.
Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
And I only want to talk about it
Okay.
because of the coolest thing to me to come out of the movie. He's married to Winona
Time
Ryder.
out. Now, we're going to preface the next 5 minutes of the podcast by saying Warren and I are not intentionally ganging up and beating up on you.
Yeah.
Tell us about Dracula. Tell us of your love for Dracula.
I am not telling you of my love of Dracula. I'm telling you of my love of one particular point of Dracula.
And it's okay to love it. I love
no
lots of
judgment.
films that are...
I don't love the movie.
Okay.
I think, in a previous conversation, talking about how directors get a certain way.
Yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola is a little Francis Ford Coppola in this movie, but he's allowed to be because it's his movie,
Yep.
right? So, but the fact that, and Keanu and Winona Ryder joke about this, is that they're married.
Did they meet on this? Or is this where they sort of connected more?
No. So what happens in
Oh,
the
wow.
movie is they get married in the film.
Mm-hmm.
But Coppola didn't like the way the scene was going. So he brought in a legit Roman Catholic priest to do the ceremony. So they went through the whole kit and caboodle of what you...
Really?
Short of getting a marriage license, they were married. And if you watch interviews with the two of them together,
Yeah.
they still joke about it.
Oh, funny.
Like it's like a little running side gag where it's like they could almost actually be.
I thought they were.
No.
Maybe I then just heard this story.
They're
You
best.
probably-
They're
yeah.
best friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They've got a huge respect for each other. They both admit to having crushes on each other.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. Then
But-
I heard this story and somehow,
Thought they were getting married or
Or
somehow
I'm-
confused it.
or it's from a Mandela universe and they are married
Sure.
in the other universe. Okay.
Maybe that's back in the
But
Matrix.
but again, in
Oh shit.
in the
It's all folding
it's in the
in.
Matrix. Yeah,
It's
but
all
in the Keanu world, it could be
Yes, it could.
Yeah.
because he doesn't share that stuff. But yeah,
That's an interesting.
So-
an interesting trivia tidbit of Dracula.
and again, two of my favorite characters, right? Like
Yeah.
Neo marries Lydia Dietz from Beetlejuice, right?
There you go.
So how could you not love that, right? Plus, she's made a resurgence in Stranger Things, which is one of my newest favorite TV shows.
Do you like Stranger Things?
I love Stranger Things.
I'm being cheeky here on
Yes.
the pod. Alex has like a really cool Stranger Things jacket,
Which is here.
I threw it out
Not
of the
on
room.
your
I
bed.
banished it from the room and put it on a hanger before the podcast. But sorry, I cut you off
No,
there.
again, so just when I see two of my favorite Hollywood people, hooking up, it's kind of a cool thing. So again, not watched once.
Yeah.
To never watch again. But a cool
It's
little.
really weird though that there is a lot of talented people involved with this film,
Yeah.
and it is a fucking turd. Like Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder,
Yeah.
Coppola. Who else is in there? There's Anthony Hopkins.
But I'm beginning
yeah.
to think there was a real vampire on stage.
Sucking all the talent
Well,
out?
Tom Cruise looks like he's 20. Keanu Reeves looks like he's 20.
Oh,
everybody
good point.
who's in that movie hasn't aged.
Tom Cruise is not in that movie.
Is Tom Cruise in that? Oh no, I'm thinking of Interview
Interview
with
with
the
the
Vampire.
Vampire.
Never mind.
Brad
I got
Pitt.
all sideways. So no, then.
That's okay. For $5, I'll cut that out.
Okay.
Right on.
But there's a lot of talent in there for that soup to come out bad. But who knows? You can't. I guess sometimes you can't just throw all the magical ingredients in and they all turn out great.
Well, I think it sort of suffers of its own weight. It was
It-
trying to be
yeah.
way too serious, and it was, I don't know, and like as much as we're having a love fest with Keanu, he was miscast.
He was.
Yeah, like
His attempt at an accent
is
is
just-
that's why he should not attempt accents.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, that was around the same time as Much Ado About Nothing, which again was pretty tough to watch, just because him doing classical is tough. It's it'd be like watching Robert De Niro try to do a period piece. Like it just
Doesn't work.
Some things just don't work just because the actors, they have a limited. Some people just have to be contemporary because it'd be hard to see him in anything else. Even though, I know, I'm not begrudging anybody because they should try and attempt things, but sometimes there are limitations,
Yeah.
and that's for Keanu.
Hey, they
that's
try
one
things.
of
We
them.
don't begrudge them trying them, but
Absolutely.
they also we're not going to begrudge the honesty of saying sometimes, hey, you know what,
Yeah.
doesn't always work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everything, not everything works for me. Like not every episode of this podcast is the Tim Burton episode.
There you go.
Sometimes you get the bad ones.
Yeah, and in that vein, I would also throw out have you guys seen The Watcher?
The Watcher.
Yeah, I saw it in a theater back.
No,
in
I don't think I've seen it.
The early 2000s. It would, basically, it's a story where Keanu Reeves is playing actually a serial killer, and he's taunting a detective played by James Spader with pictures of who his next victim will be. And so he'd give him a picture and say, okay, you have 24 hours to stop me. And I remember the whole time watching this going, who cast this? Because James Spader is the detective good guy, and Keanu Reeves is the psychopathic serial killer. I'm like,
You should have flipped those roles.
like, do you guys got the scripts mixed up or what? Like, cause I'm like, this seems to be like an easy
Somebody
fix
lost
here.
the bet. Somebody,
Yeah.
haha, I got to be the bad guy.
Exactly. Like I was just watching, going, "Oh my god, what?" So, anyway, I'll throw in that vein. That film has lots of flaws. So,
Hey, what doesn't?
yeah.
What do you got? What are you anticipating for the? Now we heard about Bill and Ted 3 coming. What do you think about this?
I think it's going to be good to see. You know what? I'll be honest. Because he's done so much and so much other good stuff, Bill and Ted almost fell off the radar. Mm-hmm. But the lights went off. When you hear Bill and Ted 3, to me it was kind of a oh my god moment. Like even if everybody tells me it's the most awful movie ever made, I'm going to go see it. Because it's Bill and Ted's, and Bill and Ted's was again such a epic part of it was gnarly, dude. Like it was just totally wicked back then. So I'm gonna go see it again because it was part of my culture. I'm super excited for it. I think they can pull it off. I'm very interested to see how the story's going to go. I haven't dived deep into it to see what the potential script is or the plot line is of it.
I'd almost like to know nothing about it going in.
Yeah.
I'd almost want to go in cold. I'm cautiously optimistic just from the standpoint of it's been so long since the original that it's not like they can be super banking on like a huge thing, because it was such a long time ago that it's not like this is going to ride the crest of being a third of the series to the box office necessarily.
No, this has to be made for old school fans.
Keanu doesn't need to do it. He's had so many hits. He's got the money. So it's not like he's doing it for money. Alex Winter's moved on and is more of a director known for making documentaries and stuff like that. So he doesn't need it. So just the fact that they're doing it when there's really no reason for either of them to be doing it, and it has such a high possibility that you would go on paper of it being a flop and people going, what are these two? Why would they do this? That if they are doing it, I'm kind of like, maybe they've got something. Maybe they've got a take that this is going to be a thing. It's going to be funny and worth the trip. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a check.
I'll be the funny thing is, I'd be curious to see who plays Rufus, because in the original film, I love George. The fact that I had George Carlin was the reason why I wanted to go see it.
Who would be Rufus?
I don't think they're recasting. I think they referenced the one thing I heard in an interview, because that was an automatic question, was something like that they're not going to recast, that they have a way to give him a nod or something, or he will be acknowledged, but they're not going to. It won't be like a straight up recasting, So I don't know what it will. It will be, but
or will they have a Rufus type character where now it's not Rufus? It's
I would imagine
else.
so. I imagine they have to replace it with someone has to fill that role in the film, but it won't be a recast of
also
Rufus.
Steve Harvey shows up and
just with the way we got to plug more diversity in, I wouldn't be surprised to see that character be a lady now. See, be a female actor take over that role in the film. Whether that be, you make up a reason why Rufus has had to change form, and you are playing like it is a recast, but by gender swapping it, and you're acknowledging it's not the same physical person. Maybe it's an Amy Schumer, or something. I don't know. That would be an interesting one you just threw off. But yeah, whoever's a really big comedian right now. But I don't know. Anything else? What else?
He's got a voiceover coming up in the new Toy Story movie as well.
Yes, I saw that too. He's plays a new character,
Duke Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom.
Come on now. You just want to see the character with the Keanu voice. Now, which Keanu? Is it more John Wick, or is it more Ted?
I don't know. I'll bet a little bit more laid back. They're probably casting Keanu Reeves. They're not. He's not going to vanish into that character. Like they're probably casting him to play a Keanu Reeves type. You're chuckling, Warren. Go for it.
You just scratched my brain. His name is Nick Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta love the names of his characters. Like, you got Johnny Utah, Duke Kaboom. What's the name of the replacements? Wasn't it something like Stephen Falco or something like that?
Yeah.
Shane Falco.
Shane Falco. And then I don't know. I can try to remember what.
Where do they come up with these
names? Or Jake. What was it in Speed? Jake, Taryn or something like that.
Yeah.
In Speed, it was
Jack
Travers.
Jack Travers.
I love these names. Like they sound like. I kind of pitch you a movie, and here's the name of the main character.
Yeah,
it's such movie names.
We're going to put all the Americana into his name that we could possibly.
Oh, you just totally scratched my brain when you said that. I'm like, that's such a Keanu Reeves.
I want to now cast
Johnny Utah,
Thomas Anderson.
Yeah,
right.
I want to cast him as a character called Jack Wood in an action movie called Hardwood, and it takes place at a sawmill or a lumber yard or something like that. It's Die Hard in a lumber yard, and it's called Hardwood, and he's playing
Devil's Advocate.
Jack Wood.
Kevin Lomax.
There
we go.
What else we got here?
Oh,
what's your awesome. Keanu name? That should be a thing. What's your Keanu Reeves name?
Jonathan Harker in Dracula.
Yeah, that's
right?
Oh my God!
And one of he likes Johns.
Apparently, Johns.
John Constantine. Jonathan.
Those
Harker,
are pre-existing characters.
John Wick
plays a lot of Johns.
But Johnny Utah is good.
Johnny Utah.
You gotta wonder where did they get that name? Was that like a riff on Johnny Unitas or Joe Montana or something? Or
maybe Montana. I bet.
I don't know. What would you like to see him do though? What kind of? He's done everything. Like he's done all kinds of different. There's not really a genre he hasn't tackled.
Oh, interesting.
You think about he's done comedy, he's done not saying he's conquered all those genres, but with your reference to classical, but he's done action, he's done sci-fi, he's done small shit, he's done romantic things, he's done comedies, he's done everything.
Man of Tai Chi, right? He directed that one too, right?
Have you seen that?
it was a late night attempt.
Yeah.
I didn't get through it.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's on my rewatch list.
Yeah.
But he did that right around the same time as 47 Ronin.
Okay.
So he was big into he's got some Asian roots, right? So, no, I haven't seen it all the way through yet. Okay. Unfortunately, it was about 10 or 15 minutes, but I love those styles of movies. So, I would almost like to see something more him kind of stay almost in that genre. Samurai.
Nice.
Old Japan, old Eastern movies. I'd like to see something, because he pulls off the look well. Even if 47 Ronin wasn't the best movie, when you see him with the hair and the ponytail and the kind of the samurai garb, he can do it.
Yeah.
So to see a maybe slightly better version of 47 Ronin, new story to it, I think would be a great film for him.
Yeah, I can't really think of, like I said, he's done every genre. I can't think of something that he hasn't done that I go, I really want to see that thing, but I just maybe want to see Point Break on a big screen and maybe meet him again and be a little bit less drunk than I was last time and just say, hey, you're Keanu Reeves.
Dude.
Maybe shake his hand and say, I really appreciate like your work. Well done.
Nice.
Warren, anything you want to see him do? Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Well, one thing that we haven't talked about was Scanner Darkly.
Scanner Darkly. Yeah. Dig it. Let's go.
A Richard Linklater film, rotoscoped, which I thought actually he was quite good in. Like, speaking of him doing voices, I guess in a way this is him doing a voice, even though in rotoscope it is,
animating over
top of already captured film. And it's just one of those real, for lack of better descriptions, it's just a real mindfuck. Like, he plays a detective who is trying to get to the bottom of this hallucinogenic. Thank you, drug, and so he sort of infiltrates this group of. There's a lot of infiltrations now. I'm thinking about it. Infiltrates this group of drug users to try and get to the bottom of where this source of this drug is coming from. And he sort of throughout it sort of loses his identity, which really sort of supports the creation of that film, that's being rotoscoped. And in it, because it's kind of trippy in the fact that it sort of it has a sort of Monet type sort of shifting, surreal kind of quality to it. And so I guess that's where my brain went when you said that, what do I want to see him in? I wouldn't mind seeing him in something sort of a darker drama, kind of looking for identity. Something kind of along the lines of A Scanner Darkly, in that sort of vein, but maybe this time not rotoscoped, but something like that. Because I think, there's something he does bring to the film as he ages. I would say it might be kind of interesting to see some of the lines in his face, so to speak. Those sort of roles of the aging aspect of let's say somebody who's had a past that we don't know of, or we don't have that backstory, but sort of walks quietly and confidently into that role, into that sort of world. So something in that kind of vein. I don't really have anything specific in my head.
It's a weird question for me to ask.
But something like that, like a sort of like a Walking Tall kind of scenario, which I guess in a way is John Wick. Now I'm talking it out. I'm like, I want to see him in John Wick, but I'm not going to watch it.
I would almost like to see him tackle Johnny Mnemonic again.
Yeah, cool.
Because Johnny Mnemonic got shredded because he got famous, right? It went all Hollywood. It's not the original story. And if you listen to them talk, and the director and the producers of the movie, Hollywood got a hold of it. Johnny Mnemonic is
it post Matrix?
It's post Matrix.
Okay, so then all of a sudden,
is it? Or it's
I think it's
just pre Matrix.
I think it's around 96 or so.
95.
95.
95.
Okay.
So
it's post Speed.
Post Speed.
Yeah.
It's post Speed.
Yeah.
So
his name was big, so a bunch of people started sticking their finger in the pie. Okay.
Yeah, but when you read the original story of Johnny Mnemonic and listen to the actual directors, if there was a director's cut of Johnny Mnemonic, it could have been a really good movie.
Oh, cool.
It just got Hollywoodized. And again, too many people who thought they were important and knew stuff about making movies got their hands in it and didn't, because the story's pretty wicked. I mean, you're a courier, you gotta
Oh.
You got a USB slot in the back of your head to download.
Oh, really?
Download information, and he takes on too much information, and he's got to get it out of there before his brain basically explodes. And I think it's a great story. It just needed to not be made for pop culture. It needed to be made the way it was originally intended. If I remember correctly, its original story finds its way in Japanimation or one of those classic style of films. So, yeah, I think a
Take another
second
kick at
shot
that
at that
cat.
would be. I mean, I don't know if you could do a second shot at it with Keanu because he's attached to the stink on the first one.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be a good thing.
If you could have a do-over.
If you could throw out a mulligan, I think that would be. I'd like to see that as a mulligan movie.
Mm-hmm. I can't even really think of one of them that I would want to see differently. Like, you covered that one, but yeah, all the ones that I like them. The ones I don't like, I'm kind of like, I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts?
We haven't talked about his romance films. He usually is pretty stand up. Nothing to really.
I'm not as familiar. I know like the Lake House. I've never seen it though.
It was enjoyable. Like he's one of the better parts of the film.
A Walk on the
Among
Clouds.
the Clouds.
Yeah.
And then there was something Minnesota. What was it?
Feeling Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah. So, but and he's he can play very likable characters because even in that Diane Keaton film, where even he had a smaller role, he plays a doctor.
As good as it gets.
With Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on it right now. But he's in there, and he plays a doctor who he's romancing a woman who's.
Diane Keaton,
who's much older, but it's very believable, very thoughtful, very sweet, and of course he's the love rival of Jack Nicholson, who are both trying for affection, and so final thoughts for me would be I might see him in I think he could play that sort of aging romantic kind of film, but that's not going to be for a whole lot of people. That would be just for the aging folks who are trying to find romance one more time, that type of thing. So.
Why do you look at me when you say that?
Well, you have it's getting a little darker in here. I'm not sure how soon you're going to be queuing. I'm not sure why.
I asked you guys wanted lights on turned on before we started this thing. Okay.
It doesn't hurt to light a candle or two.
Something's got to give.
Something's got to give. There we go. That's it.
Not as good as it gets.
Yeah.
That's another Jack movie, but not that's Helen Hunt.
Yeah. Which is I enjoyed that film actually. That was a good film.
Well, they went like as most things happen. Keanu got super huge. Yeah. So then it became cool to hate on Keanu, right?
Yeah, it's tall poppy syndrome. Everybody wants to knock off who's on top.
That's right.
Sweet November or Last November, the one he did with Charlize Theron. He got nominated for all sorts of Razzies and stuff for that movie. I actually enjoyed the movie, right? Like, again, it was him being different, right? But I think there was just the let's knock him down a peg, that everybody goes through. Like, oh my God, he's super huge, so if he does something good, let's boo it.
But you notice how nobody ever knocks him down?
No, and again,
he's like Teflon. It's like, okay, so this movie didn't do well at the box office. People shit on it. Whatever. He moves on. He doesn't get in a twist, and his next movie just does just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and if I had to add a final thought, it's like just thank you to this guy, right? Like he's what Hollywood should be.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but he's 1% of the 1%ers.
Yeah, is that true?
Right. Like. You can't put him on a pedestal and you can't idolize the guy because he is the guy next door.
Yeah.
But we're going to do our damnedest to try and do it anyways, right? Like, maybe the new superhero is the guy that is worth millions of dollars, but we'll sit down and have a beer and a pizza with you and use the curse words. And, this is the guy next door who did awesome. And you just gotta love it for that. And again, to your point, he's Teflon. I hope he continues making movies. He puts out 2 or 3 movies a year. Anything he wants, for as long as he wants to do it.
Keep riding motorcycles.
Yeah, and he'll ride off into the sunset, and I think he'll get the retirement he deserves. People will check in on him every now and then, like True Hollywood Story is, in a where are they now, but not because. He couldn't find work or anything like that. He's going to drop off the radar and people are going to go, yeah, okay.
He'll get one of those like lifetime achievement
yeah.
career Oscars at some point.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying, Alex, because I think his legacy won't be a character he plays, but who he is as a character off the
Yeah.
set, off the screen.
His real person.
His real person.
His legacy is Keanu Reeves, which is the
Exactly.
best. Is truly the best part of all everything he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll bring it to a close there, guys. Thanks for coming by. This was a great chat. Warren, Alex?
I'm not going to be moving. I'm just going to stay here for the next one.
Oh, fantastic! let's just roll on to the next one.
I'll tag off then.
We'll get some waters and we'll just keep going on and start talking about Batman.
There you go.
All right. Well, until next time, take the blue pill, Neale.